Hi guys, and welcome back to the Crawl Corner. We're here once again in this wonderful ranty corner for all things Formula E. So round number 1 at Shanghai has now come to a close, and yeah, it was a spicy race, wasn't it? There was some good overtakes, some good battles up front. The energy efficiency towards the end with the cars that were trying to fight their way through the field once again, you know, the likes of Cassidy, Oliver Rowland coming through as well. A few little tups and nicks and bangs and scrapes here and there, but that is the nature of Formula E. There was a few front wings went awry again, but for the most part, it was really clean racing, which only saw one retirement, which is vastly different to what we've seen in previous races. So if you've never seen this series before, I award the drivers out a maximum of 10 points based on their overall race weekend's performance, and I go all the way down to 0 if they have a particularly bad one. Take a look out for bonus points. They're sometimes enough of some drivers to do something extra special during a race, and on the very rare occasion I do award minus points to those drivers to do something extra special, but for all the wrong reasons. Let's take a look at the current Crawl Corner standings then going into this episode. It's on the screen now for you to take a look at. Have a look and see where your favourite driver is right now, and based on how they performed in this race alone, how do you think they're going to do? Will they go up the leaderboard? Will they maintain their position? Or will they tumble down drastically? There's a big gap now. There seems to be a breakaway pack of about 3 or 4 drivers up there that could, in theory, win this title. But anything is possible on the Crawl Corner series, just like it is in Formula E. Just because they're leading now, it isn't a given that they're going to be the victors of the championship come the end of the season. So let's kick things off with the race winner then, shall we? Mitch Evans in the Jaguar. Fantastic, fantastic performance by Mitch Evans, qualifying himself inside the top 10. I think it was about P5, P6, wasn't it? So put yourself in that good territory there to harvest the energy needed at the start of the race, get in the pack but not too far down, and then was able just to merge his way through and scrape his way through as it progressed. It was a weird one with the attack modes, because most drivers did their attack modes pretty much immediately one after the other as soon as they could. Other teams saved it for the end, particularly like Jake Dennis and Andretti liked to do that strategy. Evans was a bit in between, if I remember rightly. He went for his first attack mode rather rapidly, but then saved his for a bit later on. And it worked out well. It did work out well. Obviously, he's a victor. It worked out well what his strategy was. It was looking like Porsche were fairly unbeatable in certain situations, though, wasn't there? Because it was very much a 1-2 line astern with Porsche up front. And they were able to manage the pace and manage the gap so they could take 3 attack modes. But as it was, Mitch Evans on much better energy towards the end there, because he hadn't been leading, was able to carve his way through. Had assistance once again by Nick Cassidy. We'll come to Nick Cassidy in a moment and discuss that a bit further. But yeah, overall for Mitch Evans, you know, it was a solid qualifying. Got yourself into that area where he needs to be, inside the top 10, and in particular inside that top 6, top 5 window where, you know, you're able to do things there. And came through as a victor. So for Mitch Evans, I've scored him 9 out of 10 for me personally. I think it was a good race overall. Just could have done maybe, you know, the thing is with Mitch, it's just annoying me with what's happening with Jaguar behind the scenes at the moment, it must be said. So no criticism against Mitch Evans himself, but I'm knocking him a point off just for the silly team games that are going on behind the scenes, and always seems to favour Mitch, and that really doesn't make sense. But anyway, 9 to Mitch Evans. In second place we come to Pascal Wehrlein in the first of the Porsches. He drove really, really well this race, there's no doubt about that. I don't really know what more to be said other than it was just a solid race overall, wasn't it? Did well. They were up front, both Porsches at one point. It was De Coster and Wehrlein. They played the fantastic team strategy game that we saw at the likes of Monaco, where one was able to back the pack up, one went for a free attack mode, nipped him behind so he could save his energy whilst playing rear gunner to the second one to go get his attack mode. It worked really well, but unfortunately Wehrlein lost his rear gunner in a battle and a duel, and De Coster slipped down a little bit after a bit of contact here and there and ended up tumbling to 5th in the end and then got a penalty. But yeah, once he lost that rear gunner in his teammate, it was difficult to maintain Mitch Evans because Wehrlein had led quite a number of laps in the race. So it was like, right, okay, then, well, he's got the percentage deficiency, and that meant obviously that Evans slipped through. But apart from that, was able to hold his own, and he was really, really coming under attack from Nick Cassidy at the end there, wasn't there? He really, really was pushing and fighting, was Nick, to try and get through. But fair play to Wehrlein, he drove really, really well and managed to maintain P2, which is great for his championship. You know, it closes the gap to Nick Cassidy ever so slightly, and gaps the like of Jake Dennis, because that's what's needed. You know, we're into the latter stages of the championship now, and every point is crucial. So for Pascal Wehrlein, he's getting a perfect 10 from me. I think he did what he could. He drove a fantastic team game with his teammate Da Costa for as long as he could, and then held off the likes of Nick Cassidy, Oliver Rowland behind as well. You know, they'd all slipped through and were all fighting and dueling away behind him on better percentage efforts. So yeah, well done, Pascal Wehrlein. It's 10 to him. Third place, we come to Nick Cassidy in the second of the Jaguars. A 1-3 for Jaguar, and you think that looks brilliant on paper, but I think this could have easily been a 1-2. I'm not sure what's happening with Jaguar. I'm really not. Once again, Cassidy had much better percentage over his own teammate as well as Pascal Wehrlein. He went down into that 14th area, and you can see the skill in Nick Cassidy's driving when you see that he dropped down to 14th, and then every time you looked at that leaderboard, despite all the shunts and crunchers and people up and down the field swapping position, losing positions, etc., Nick Cassidy was always P14. That's where he wanted to be. I'm harvesting my energy until about 7-8 laps to go, and then he started to push his way up through the field with the percentage he got, progressed himself into the fringes of the podium places, and then fought to the end. It was really, really clever, smart driving once again by Nick Cassidy. Cannot be faulted at all. But where it all sort of comes undone is he gets behind his teammate Mitch, and then he's like, what are we doing? Are we holding? And he's like, and then the team are like, yeah, we're holding. Well, yeah, how long for? And I don't know with Nick. I don't know if it's more his fault for even suggesting are we holding as a question. You know, he's played the team game at Monaco. He played the team game last time out in Berlin at one of the rounds as well, or tried to anyway. We saw it earlier in the season at Diriyah, didn't we, where he was told to hold position behind Mitch Evans, and then Mitch Evans fell off the track at the end, and then was apologising that he overtook him even though Evans had made the mistake. So it's a really weird dynamic, and it's clear that Jaguar want Evans to win this because Evans has been there since the start. He's their golden boy. But unfortunately for Evans, he had a shocking start to the season, mainly all his own fault. And the racing itself, Cassidy has just overall been better. But why, when it's crucial for Cassidy to pick up every point possible, are they still favouring Mitch Evans with this whole situation of, yeah, we're holding? Well, why? Why and how long for? And then it means that instead of having 3 or 4 laps to attack at the end, he's actually only got the last lap to try and get Wehrlein. It's really strange, isn't it? So yeah, it's a weird dynamic within Jaguar at the moment. So yeah, 1-3 on paper looks fantastic, but that could have been Nick Cassidy 1, Mitch Evans 2 quite easily, and they just let Nick Cassidy carry on fighting, let him get past his teammate, and he would have been able to breeze past Wehrlein. But as it was, got caught up in the gaggle, got told to hold. It's massive risk. So for Nick Cassidy, he's getting 9 points from me, and it's a really weird dynamic within Jaguar, it must be said. But yeah, we'll see how it goes for the rest of the season. Mitch Evans has sort of put himself in championship contention now with that victory. He's closed on the gap of Jake Dennis and on Pascal Wehrlein, of course. Closed in on his teammate slightly somewhat as well. So he's not out of the mix now. Jaguar need to be careful though, because they've got a nice lead in the Constructors' Championship. And if these teammates come to blows because they're sick of the shit, particularly Nick Cassidy, they do something silly, they take each other out. Porsche could easily catch up, Andretti could easily catch up. So yeah, but for now, anyway, it's 9 points to Nick Cassidy and an interesting dynamic within Jaguar brewing. Fourth place we come to Oliver Rowland in the Nissan. Once again, it's a shame to say he's not on the podium this time. It's been a long, long time since he's not finished a race and not been on the podium. But here, P4, he will take that. He was absolutely chomping at the bit at the end there, wasn't he? Trying to get past Nick Cassidy, but Nick Cassidy shuffled him onto the grass after Nick himself tried to go for a move on Wehrlein that didn't work. And Oliver Rowland was then trying to come around the outside, and Nick Cassidy just squeezed him onto the grass. That was fair enough. It's more like touring car racing than single-seater racing in Formula E, isn't it? But Ollie Rowland, once again, P4, good points, good points. And okay, you could say, yeah, he's lost out to his 3 championship rivals ahead, which in theory he has, but at least he's there, P4, picking up some points. Good points in the end. He's getting 9 from me as well. 9 to Ollie Rowland for that. I can't fault a thing, really, to be honest with you. Qualifying could have done with being a little bit better, get himself in that mix a little bit more. But other than that, you know, once again, was a bit like a Cassidy. Saved his energy in the mid-pack and then came through at the end. Unfortunately, they missed out on a podium, but apart from that, fairly faultless. 9 to Oliver Rowland. Fifth place, we come to Jake Dennis in the first of the Andrettis. Yeah, Jake. it looked like there was going to be more on this race, didn't there? But in the end, he just got stuck in this sort of 5th position and wasn't really able to find his way through. Poor qualifying performance once again over a single lap from Andretti, but we're never surprised now, are we? That rapid Berlin pole that he got last time certainly went begging rather quickly. And yeah, he made his way through the field, but not as well as some. And that's the thing, isn't it? You know, the likes of Cassidy, Rowland got through. You know, Dennis there, P5, he's losing out to all his rivals ahead, and this is where the cream rises to the top in Formula E. Those two top 5 are, in theory, title protagonists now, and he's ended up last of all of them. So at least it's good points with 10, but then when you think, well, he's lost out 8 to Verline, he's lost out 5 to Cassidy, he's lost out on 2 to Ollie Rowland as well. You know, it's not great, but it's not brilliant either. You know, it's not bad, but it's not great either. So it's going to be a solid 7 to Jake Dennis for me. I think that's a fair play, good effort. And that's that, really. 7 to Jake Dennis. Next up, we come to Jean-Eric Vergne in the first of the DS Penske's. Yeah, I think I've been harsh here with Vergne's score, but at the same time, it's frustrating once again to see him put a fantastic pole lap in and him not be rewarded with at least a podium. You know, like I'd have thought a podium at the very least would have been possible from what he did in qualifying, but as it was, he tumbles here to 6th. He had a bit of contact, didn't he, which I didn't actually know about or see until after the race and realised that Da Costa got a penalty, so I assume it was with Vergne, but I don't know for definite. Yeah, we didn't see it, I don't think. But either way, Vergne, here he is, P6 in the end. It's okay, it's good points for DS Penske, but they need to be doing more. They need to be closing in on their gap to the top 5, basically, that finished ahead of them. Because without that, without them finishing ahead of them, they're never, ever going to be title contenders. And they're only going to be picking up the odd win, odd lucky podium, etc. So yeah, for me personally, Jean-Eric Vergne is going to get 6.5 from me. It deserves more, but it's just frustration that it's not more all the time. You know, always good in a single lap, never good in a race. So 6.5 to Jean-Eric Vergne. Next up, finishing in P7 after crossing the line P8, wasn't it? It is Nick De Vries. Wow, wow, wow. He takes a weekend off at Berlin and comes back with a mighty qualifying effort. Gets himself P4 on the grid, was it? It was something crazy. And then in the race itself, maintained the track position to stay within the points at all times. Here he is taking a big chunk of points for Mahindra, and it's great to see him come back revitalised. After a week away in Berlin, you'd have thought, well, he's missed 2 rounds there. What are we going to see from him here in China? And first time out in round 1, he's delivered the goods. A stunning qualifying, his first time in the duels this season, and also then to pick up his first points of the season. Got lucky with a couple of penalties ahead, but that's fair enough. He was still inside the points anyway. And he is getting a perfect 10 from me. It was really funny when they took the lead of that race in the early phases. They're like, Nick, we don't want to lead. We don't want to lead. Nick, move out the way. And you're like, yeah, fair enough, mate. I'll pull back. So, yeah, it was just how it worked out. But it was great to see Nick De Vries lead in a race again. It's nice to see him score some points. His first time scoring points since Monza 2022 when he had that wildcard race out for Williams that year in Formula 1. So, yeah, it's nice to see him back in the points. Nice to see him have an encouraging race for Mahindra, and nice to see him beating Mortara for really what is the first time this season. So yeah, a perfect 10 for me for Nick De Vries. Then we come to Sebastian Buemi, picking up a couple of points here. Quite lucky actually, because I think he finished P10, so elevated to P8, so that's quite lucky in that sense. He ends up picking an additional 3 up due to penalties. It's nice to see Envision finally scoring some points with their regular drivers. Joel Eriksson did it last time out in Berlin as a replacement driver, of course, but here this time out, Buemi did finally pick up some points. But is it anything to write home about? No, it's not. No, it's not. They are struggling. They are really, really struggling, that team. And 4 points is not going to cut it in the Constructors' Championship overall when you've got so many other teams doing so much better. For Sebastian Buemi, I've given him a middle-of-the-road 5 and he needs to thank me for it. I don't really know what else I can say other than, yeah, it was average once again, wasn't it? You know, Frines had a lot better race up until the point where he had contact, didn't he, with someone. But Buemi was nowhere. Lucky to pick up a point and then picked up a couple of points as a result of penalties. So, yeah, middle 5 I think it's fair for Buemi. Not to write home about. He's picked up some points, hallelujah. About bloody time. but it's still not been a fantastic season, has it? Someone even luckier than Sebastian Buemi is Stoffel van Dorn. Didn't pick up any points at all in the main race itself, crossing the line in P11, but the 2 penalties ahead for Da Costa and Maxi Gunter means here he is finishing P9 and picking up some points. He's getting 3. 3 points from me is all he's getting. Once again, not on the pace of his teammate Jean-Eric Vergne, and I've been quite harsh with Vergne because I'm frustrated at the fact that they're not always up there and they don't maintain their positions in qualifying. Van Dorn, out-qualified, out-race, hands down once again, and really is becoming frustrated. It'll be interesting to see what happens next season. Will they keep Van Dorn? I don't know. He's not really done much at all, has he, this year? So, yeah, 3 to Van Dorn. Lucky to pick up a couple of points due to other people's penalties in the end, after what was once again another anonymous race. The last of the point scorers, we come to Lucas Di Grassi. Once again, a lucky driver to pick up a point basically after finishing himself in P12. Yeah, I don't really know what to say again for Di Grassi. Outraced his teammate Nico Muller, so that's fair enough. But again, we're just not seeing anything from him, are we? The App Cooper squad has just been frustrating. There's been more pace in that car at times and not delivered. But good to see him inherit a point, it should be said. But I'm basically basing on where he finished, which was P12. So it's 5 to him. Middle row 5. I don't think it was bad by Di Grassi standards. We've seen him a lot worse this season, punting cars off left, right and centre. This race, he didn't do anything wrong, but again, he inherits a lucky point due to other people's misfortune, and you could say, well, he put himself in that position, but in theory, if the car was a 12th place finisher, it could have scraped a point or 2. So yeah, middle row 5 to Lucas Di Grassi, and that's that. And even with all the penalties, this driver could not score any points. It is Sasha Fenestraz. Unfortunately, it is a lotterer of the week to Sasha Fenestraz because once again his teammate is up there, you know, on the fringes of the podium, fighting to the end. He's fighting for the championship. Sasha is having a rough ride this season, isn't it? He really, really is. There's looking to be no pace in his car at all. There's no pace in him, apart from the odd good race here and there that we've seen, and a race where he started the last lap like on the fringes of the points, then ended up with a top 5 finish because of all the chaos that happened at the end of the race and disqualifications and whatnot. We haven't seen much from him at all, unfortunately. So yeah, Sasha Fenestraz, it is a lotterer of the week. I do like him, but he can't be treated as the rookie anymore. He's not the rookie on the field. He's well into his 2nd season now, and he has just been hands down beaten by his teammate Ollie Rowland. And Nissan, had they had 2 drivers up there, won't be fighting with Jaguar, admittedly, because Jaguar are just doing something special this season, but they would be up there fighting with the likes of Andretti and Porsche. But when you've only got one car scoring the bulk of the points, it can't happen, can it? So yeah, unfortunately, a lotterer of the week to Sasha Fenestraz because he's just miles off his teammate once again. Then we come to Robin Freitz in the 2nd Envision. How unlucky for Robin. A good qualifying, to be fair, by him, a solid qualifying, and got himself inside the top 10 quite early on. Got himself briefly leading the race as well, I think. He was certainly inside the top 3 for a little while, and his team radio came over, now we're in the fight, Robin, keep this up. But unfortunately for him, he got touched and got tagged at one of the corners and had a pirouette and a spin and tumbled all the way down to the back of the field. Yeah, unfortunate, highly unfortunate for him for that. I don't want to blame him for that, but once again proves that the Envision squad are just luckless. They are totally luckless, and even with a bit of luck, they only pick up a few points. It's just nothing special, is it? So yeah, Robin Freitz is getting 3 from me. That's probably harsh because I think he did put a better performance in than Sebastian Buemi. But ultimately, at the end of the day, Sebastian Buemi delivered some points. Freitz delivered none. Okay, you could say that was a result of the contact, which it probably was, and it was, in theory. He tumbled to the back of the grid. But again, it's just the frustration. I shouldn't be awarding points based on the fact that, oh, he coulda, he shoulda, woulda, coulda. Because if I did that, I'd be scoring everyone really good points all the time. It's not a shoulda, woulda, coulda championship. He drove well, but he had contact once again. Whether that's due to luck or his own misfortune or whatever, ultimately, he didn't deliver the point. So it is 3 to Freitz, and what a frustrating year for Envision this is. Champions last year in the team standings, and here they are. I think they're squabbling around for about 7th. Crazy. Absolutely crazy. 3 to Friends. Next up, we come to the first of the ERTs that hurts. It is Sergio Sette Camera. ERT's pace has gone begging, hasn't it, these last few races? We've not seen anything of them. They've been really anonymous, not really challenging or fighting for the points at any part of the race at all this season. It's really unfortunate for him. Sette Camera, again, it's a middle of the road 5 to him because I do feel there might be a little bit more in that car, but I don't want to put Sette Camera down too much because he's done a fantastic season this season, scored the bulk of the ERT's points when they were able to come, and had some good qualifying performances as well, you know, but these last few races it seems like it's more the car than the driver. But with Formula E being as crazy as it is, you'd have thought maybe, just maybe, even when the car didn't have the pace, it would get a lucky point, a bit like Di Grassi has this race. So yeah, and Di Grassi picking up that point closes the gap to ERT as well, so that's quite crucial in that respect. So yeah, they really need to put their ideas up ERT and try and find more pace in that car, because at the moment, they're just struggling. Middle 05 to Sergio Sette Camera. Next up, we come to the second of the Andrettis in Norman Nato. And there we have it. Lotterer of the week to Norman Nato for not doing anything at all this race, unfortunately. Once again, it's a bit like the Nissan situation. You've got one driver up there doing really, really well with Jake Dennis and Oliver Rowland. You know, they're up there. But Sasha Fenestraz and Norman Nato in their respective second cars, if they were up there, they'd be fighting well up there with Porsche and maybe on the fringes of Jaguar, although that would be a stretch. But when you've only got one car scoring the points, it's not going well, is it? So yeah, you know, Jay Dennis is always in the points, or more often than not in the points. Norman Nato, you tend to see a good race from him here and there, and a good qualifying from him here and there, but then for the most part, he tumbles down the order and doesn't score points. Sometimes it's luck, but this time it was just all down to him, just not having the pace, not able to climb his way through the field. Yeah, we know the Andretti's not got the one lap pace at the most part anyway. But yeah, bit of a shame. So it is a Lotterer of the week to Norman Nato for once again a poor performance. Next up we come to Nico Muller in the second of the apps, and unfortunately, you know, Lucas Di Grassi with the penalties was able to scrape a point. Nico Muller was nowhere near him, unfortunately, and he's just getting 4 from me. Gets less than his teammate, and you're going to think, well, his teammate did score a point, but as mentioned, finished outside the points in the sense, so it doesn't matter. Yeah, you know, Nico Muller down here didn't have a really good race, did he? Just didn't see much of him at all, to be honest. Difficult to see where his race went wrong, because I don't think it ever really went right. But yeah, Nico Muller's getting 4 points, 1 point less than his teammate. Yeah, his teammate did get a lucky point in the end, but Nico Muller still been solid for the team overall this season. Just a bad day at the office so far. 4 to Nico Muller. Next up, we come to Jake Hughes in the first of the McLarens. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. What on earth is happening with McLaren? What on earth? Oh, I don't even know, but it's just frustrating, isn't it? Jake, nowhere. Nowhere again. It's just, I don't know where it's all gone wrong for him. I really, really don't. But, oh well. As they say la vie. I've given him 2. I don't know what to do other than that, to be honest. I think there was points where the thing is, like, I'm just that frustrated. I can't even remember what happened. I'm sure Jake had qualified well, like on the fringes of the top 10, and then was on his way through the field and was running inside the points, then just tumbled out of them again. Did he break his wing? I don't know. I really don't know. But unfortunately, Jake Hughes here, outside the points, once again anonymous, and it's 2 points to him because it's another pointless weekend for McLaren. They've got to be asking questions now, haven't they? Taylor Barnard came in and had a solid race at Monaco, not shunting, and then 2 points finishes in Berlin, while Sam Bird had broken his wrist, or injured his ligaments in his wrist anyway, at Monaco with a crash, and Jake Hughes picked up no points in the races that Taylor Barnard did. Yeah, crazy. Anyway, 2 to Jake Hughes. And finishing behind Jake Hughes, it is his teammate Sam Bird, of course. He's getting 2 as well. Keep it short and brief with Sam. There's nothing more I can add that I haven't already said about Jake. It is just frustrating to see McLaren so far down here. Sam Bird, I don't think did anything at all. I think he was just at the back for the majority of the race, if I remember rightly. I seem to remember Jake Hughes was in there at one point, looking like scoring points, but I can't ever remember seeing Sam Bird inside the top 10. So, yeah, okay, he's coming back from injury and a few races away, and I get that, but he's an expert at Formula E, isn't he? You know, he is supposedly the expert of Formula E. He's been there since the start. Having a couple of races off shouldn't make a difference to your overall performance, so it is just 2 to Sam Bird. Next up, we come to Antonio Felix da Costa. After crossing the line in P5, was handed a 5-second time penalty for a collision with Jean-Eric Vergne, which I don't think we saw. And once again, probably by the time I upload this video, it'll be on YouTube via the Formula E website, via the Formula E channel. But yeah, very frustrating to see da Costa down here. And once again, it seems like the FIA are very, very harsh with da Costa when it comes to penalties, but there you go, that's life, isn't it? For da Costa, though, I have scored him based on him finishing 5th because I think he has been hard done by this season by the FIA, and we didn't see the incident, so clearly it wasn't replay worthy. So, I don't know. I really don't. But I've given him 8. That was based on his 5th place finish and the strategic team game he played with Pascal Wehrlein, which ultimately meant that Wehrlein stayed on the podium. So, yeah, he did drop to 5th, which was unfortunate. But I think Pascal Wehrlein did a solid job, and he wouldn't have been able to stay up there in that podium position had it not been for his teammate da Costa playing wingman. So he gets points for that as well for me. Da Costa, fantastic team player. It's amazing to think we had all them rumours at the start of the season that they were going to get rid of da Costa like immediately because of a couple of bad races. Da Costa's risen to the top now, hasn't he? He is fighting. He's had 2 victories this season. Okay, one was taken away. And here he is again with a solid P5 finish that gets taken away by maybe a harsh penalty. Like I say, if we didn't see it, it can't have been that bad. So, yeah. I just think the FIA have got it in for Porsche and got it in for da Costa, so it's surprising that Porsche have committed to the Gen 4 era, which means they'll be in Formula E until the end of 2030 now. Great news for the sport and the championship, absolutely, but Porsche get hard done by quite a lot. And, yeah, they've got that Court of Appeal thing coming up now, haven't they, soon, for the victory that was taken away from them a few races ago due to a non-coated spring. Wow, fantastic, eh? But, yeah, for now, da Costa probably hard done by again with a 5-second time penalty, a bit of bullshit. 8 points to him, because I feel sorry for him, and I do quite like da Costa. That's fine. 8 to da Costa. Next up, we come to Jehan Daruvala in the Maserati. Yeah, saw nothing of him this race, just at the back the whole race, and that was that. It's 1 point. It's 1 point to Jehan Daruvala. Unfortunately for him, he did nothing this race. I know it's a new circuit, but it's a new circuit for everyone. He's had some good races this season now. He's been building it up, and you think the momentum's building. He's got a chance to, get himself a good qualifying, scrape a few points. And then he just comes to another circuit, and the next thing is qualifying last, staying at the back. Very, very frustrating. So it is just 1 point, unfortunately, to Jehan Daruvala. Next up, it is Dan Tinctum, and much of the same treatment that I have given Jehan. He is getting 1 point as well for Tinctum. Didn't see much of him. Did he have to make a pit stop, actually, because he had a puncture? Or did I make that up? I can't quite remember, but I think there was an ERT in the pits at one point. It was probably Tinctum. Yeah, but other than that, it's just 1 point. It's frustrating. It really is. We've already mentioned it several times. In fact, every episode barring one this season so far, that Dan Tinctum and Sete Camara have switched places this season. Sete Camara did nothing last season while Dan Tinctum was scoring the bulk of the points. And here he is this season. Sete Camara scoring the bulk of the points and Tinctum just getting that one lucky result. So there you go. It is just 1 point to Dan Tinctum. Next up, we come to Maxi Gunter, who in theory should have been getting a Lotterer of the Week. He ended up crossing the line in P9, P8 area, so I decided he was worth a couple of points, even though he did take out Eduardo Mortara and hit Jake Hughes at that point as well, didn't he? So, yeah, I've got to be honest, I've probably slipped up a bit here by not giving him a Lotterer and giving him 2 points, but that was based on the fact that he was able to recover and score a couple of points. He's well outside championship contention now. I thought Maxi Gunter might have been an outside contender for the championship going into the London double-header to finish the season off with. But as it is, it all came undone in Berlin. No points there. No points here so far in Shanghai. It's well and truly wiped him out now, hasn't it? He gets 2 from me, which is very, very lucky he didn't get a Lotterer. Had I known he'd have got the penalty, then it would have been a lottery. But yes, he ended up crossing the line P9, and here he is in the end, tumbling pretty much down to last due to a 10-second time penalty, which I don't blame the FIA for. That was justified. Took Mortara out the race. Mortara was the only retirement, and probably damaged Jake Hughes in that as well, so maybe I was a bit harsh on Jake, but frustrating with McLaren. Yeah, two Maxi Gunter. And last but by no means least, we do come to the final driver. Sadly, the only retirement in the race, as already mentioned, was Eduardo Mortara. He'd been out-qualified by Nick de Vries. He was being out-raced by Nick de Vries at this stage, but unfortunately, Maxi Gunter lunged it up the inside of Jake Hughes, hit Jake Hughes, caused Jake Hughes to hit the side of Mortara and then hit the front of Mortara. It was like a knock-on effect, like knock, 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 and then it just broke the steering and gave Mortara a puncture, and that was it. His race was over. So out of a maximum of 5, I can score a retirement. I'm giving him 3. 3 to Eduardo Mortara for that, because he wasn't on pace with his teammate, so I can't really give him a full 5 for retirement, because the way I see it is, had he finished the race, he'd have maybe got a 6. Obviously it halves because he's a retirement, and I think 3 is fair overall based on the fact that he was out-qualified and out-raced by de Vries by some margin up until the point of the retirement, but ultimately that wasn't his fault. So yeah, unfortunately the only retirement this race, Mortara, very, very unlucky. 3 to him. So there we have everything, guys. Those were the runners and riders of the round number 1 here at Shanghai, the Chinese E-Prix. Let me know your thoughts and feedback down below. Did I score any drivers too high, any too low? The updated standings are on the screen now for you to take a look at. Have a look and see where your favourite driver is now. As mentioned, there's quite a few fighting up at the top there. It's getting a bit lonely down at the bottom, isn't it? But yeah, there's still a lot to play for. Still a few rounds to go in this championship, and anyone can be crowned the champion, really, because it's my rules and I'll do what I want. A massive thanks, as always, goes out to Dan Bartlett, formerly of Mushy Gaming, of course, for providing me with the scoreboard that you see on the screen. Without him, this series would be more pointless than it already is. So I will see you all for tomorrow's episode, which is round number 2 at Shanghai. Looking forward to that. Be interesting to see. I think there's a lap less or 2 laps less again in this race, so the pace might pick up a bit quicker, might not have the peloton as much, and we might see some surprising results. Who knows? But yeah, look forward to seeing you all tomorrow for the Formula E race then. Take care, guys. I'll see you all tomorrow, and as always, much love.